All right, everyone, it's widely being reported on right now. Facebook purging over 500 politically themed and similarly analytical news-related pages off of Facebook. Now, one thing that none of the media outlets, predictably, covering this are pointing out, and I haven't even seen any alt-media commentators notice this. If you look at their, justification for this, they're like, well, these sites were proclaiming themselves as platforms for legitimate political debate, and they actually weren't. Now I'm thinking to myself, nobody's picking up on this, apparently, so this is novel. Who died and made Zuckerberg capable of determining what constitutes a legitimate political debate? Or Facebook. It is an illusion, and it's one that doesn't get spoken about enough. It is an illusion that a Silicon Valley for-profit tech firm is capable of, in an unbiased manner, even if it's using AI, determining what does or does not constitute legitimate discussion of any brand. Not just politics, news analysis, fucking history, science, anything like that. It is impossible because there is explicit and implicit bias, number one. Number two, they do not have the resources to properly apply any rules related to it. And number three, you will almost invariably get differentials in the application of those rules. No matter how ironclad they are, especially if they're like on Twitter and they're not ironclad at all and they're deliberately malleable and amorphous, in the application of those rules by even just the little moderation staffers towards different pages or channels or whatever. The problem is here, when we're looking at this list of sites that have been unpublished from Facebook for being not newsy enough or whatever. Some of these pages are left-wing. Some of these are progressive pages. You know what's missing? What's absent from this? Any corporate media outlets. Yeah, there's a reason for that. It's exactly what I've talked about. And when I brought this up like over a year ago, people on the right were like, no, it's only the right wing being targeted, or it's only people that are against the left. No, there's social justice warriors getting unpublished on Facebook now. There are social justice warriors getting hammered on other platforms too. The one notable absence, the one single group, you could say, or genre of content creation that has never been targeted, corporate media. Not once have they ever been targeted. And a missing link media a little bit, like InfoWars, you'd think. InfoWars is a business. It's not fully independent in that sense. It's a collective of people, not an individual or a single self-run group. It's a collective. That being said, they're obviously independent enough to get the ire of Facebook, Twitter, Spotify, Google, Apple, Microsoft, that email service that I can't remember the name of, and basically everything else on the entire internet, including their original registrar, I think, having to get a new one, fucking payment process, Stripe, PayPal, basically everyone. They no longer exist on the normie internet. Now, Facebook is less relevant at this point than certainly YouTube or any alt-tech outlet. It's like, I don't even care. Like, if my page on Facebook were suddenly deleted, I'd be like, who cares? It's a placeholder. It's there so that people know it's the official page, and here's the links to where I actually do things. Because, I wanted to have a presence on the platform for people to find so that you wouldn't get something that's just fan-run, and it's like, they might post something that I don't personally agree with that only loosely fits in with my work. I wanted to have one official page. There's a Styx Hexenhammer 666 page on Facebook. But I never visit it. I don't know how many people are on it at this point. I'm never going to post anything on it. There's only one post. It's a bunch of links to everything else. You want content like you get on Facebook? Join me on Minds or Twitter or Gab or something like that. You want videos? Take your pick. They're on 4 different fucking websites. Plus I have a Vimeo account, again, for reasons similar to why I have a Facebook page. Facebook purging pages is not new. It's not a novel thing, but since we can't trust Zuckerberg, he has to go up in front of Congress, not under oath, obviously. And then his representatives have to go before them multiple times on issues related to security and privacy. If we can't trust Zuckerberg and Facebook or any of the other Silicon Valley giants on that issue, then what makes you think that we can trust them to determine what is or is not legitimate organic political discussion? Or legitimate, actual, proper, true news? Most of the news, so-called, that you get is biased. It is analysis. It's third-party material. What I do, I'm giving, largely, my opinion. I'm talking about like Ebola. The rate of new cases of Ebola, as I reported this morning, has grown in Congo. But much of what I'm saying in that video is my own personal opinion and my own understanding of the situation. And even if, by the way, someone, alt media or corporate media, gets something wrong, it doesn't mean it's out of malevolence. It could just be, they got a fact wrong. There's always, though, an implied malevolence if it's alt media, and it's always assumed that it's not malevolent if it's corporate media, according to Silicon Valley and the far left fans of tech censorship. This is why we need an Internet Bill of Rights. Earlier, it was pointed out that there was the possibility, why not just use the Postal Service to deliver a public email-style option and stuff? That could work. I think it's easier just to use platforms that are already sort of there and just say, hey, knock out the censorship. That's all you have to do. Internet Bill of Rights. It's as simple as that. It's not a difficult thing. Facebook, though, at this point is basically vestigial. And it seems like Zuckerberg is seeing, hey, how many people can I abuse before my own platform goes into a tailspin Twitter style? 'Cause right now, Twitter's dying. You do realize that Twitter is actively losing users. Once a big firm begins losing users, it typically accelerates itself into oblivion. Unless something drastic changes. You'd have to have an overhaul of the way Twitter does business. They continue to abuse more people. They're constantly banning people for no reason. Look at what happened to James Woods. They're constantly doing screwy shit. And Twitter at this point is basically in competition with Facebook to see which platform can kill itself faster. Which of these platforms can collapse more easily? And Zuckerberg, he's got like this weird masochism or something, I think, in mind. He's already harvested all the user data he can for the rest of his life. He can sell chunks of that same data to firm after firm and government after government, making a profit each time using contracts that prevent them from in turn giving it to other people. That is, it's proprietary. They literally, you keep this in mind. Zuckerberg would claim before Congress that your personal information, the messages, your personal info is his property. It's literally his intellectual property to be repackaged over and over and sold in bundled form, identifiable or not, to various corporate entities of his choosing, including foreign governments. You do realize that that's what Zuckerberg basically has alluded to. That should, I would think that if a person's actually a liberal, they would be upset at this concept. That a multi-billion-dollar firm that implied that this was private messaging and that this material, there was security features there for a reason, and it's like, no, we're just going to strip your name off it and sell that data. It's probably identifiable anyway because we're no good at actually making sure that it stays private. But fuck it. It's still, we're within our rights to do it. It's our property now. Your very identity, your Facebook is literally ours. Very funny. I see very little ire on the left. And there won't be any ire about this. PJW is pointing out earlier, hey, some of these pages are not right-wing. They're anti-Trump pages. And some of them are like weird side of Facebook pages, like conspiracy sites. But it's like, can you remember when nobody had a problem with the fact that there was kooky or false information on the internet and it was almost a fun thing? Like sometimes you'd get someone to fall prey to a Daily Current article or an Onion headline or the Babylon Bee or one of these others. And it was funny. It's humor. It's a form of satire. And it usually has a message that's different from the satire. The message is either about your own dumbness, like you believed it, ha ha ha, or it's an inverted message. Or it's, sort of a swipe at the group like, oh, Hillary Clinton announces that she will be 50% more boring on campaign trail. I know that I've got more to work on. Or something. And it's like, it's obviously false, but there's a political message there. You can't have satire and comedy anymore because machines don't understand satire and comedy. They class it all as literal. So an article that satirizes racism all of a sudden is labeled racist. You'd think some of the greatest satire and comedy of past eras could never be released today. Blazing Saddles, yeah, fucking good luck getting that released. To kill, people were talking about like To Kill a Mockingbird or something, and basically like, oh, Atticus is defending the evil rapist here, and you must believe her, and it was very funny. Or you look at James Woods, the image that he shared out to get his Twitter locked was just a satire piece, and it was fairly obvious satire. It was basically the hashtag walkaway piece. Male liberals should stay home. Basically let your woman take charge. We need to listen to them. You should not go out and vote. Now this is 99.9% of liberal men are going to see that and say, oh, haha, what a funny joke, you fucking right-winger. And if somebody actually believes it, actually finds it to be something to take seriously, fuck them, they shouldn't be voting, because there's obviously something mentally wrong with them. He gets his Twitter locked, he's like, fuck it, I just won't use Twitter. They unlock it after manually removing it themselves. And so then he just goes on a shitposting spree. It's very funny. So I'd say this. Fuck Facebook. You should delete your account. Like, if you have a brand to maintain, have a page there and just don't do anything. Just take up some dead space. It's what I'm doing. It's not like I use the platform, because it is fucking stupid. Facebook is moronic. It's dumber than a box of rocks. The whole preface, the whole concept of having a place, hey, I'm going to put all my personal info here, despite the fact that the leader of this company is basically an asshat communist. I'm just going to give him all my personal info, and I'm going to waste several hours a day clicking on things for no reason. It doesn't make any sense. You're not even creating content. You're just creating stupidity in the world. That's about all. Peace out.